I love roguelikes, arguably a bit too much. There's just something about this specific genre that just makes me come back every single time. So when I discovered this little game called Slay the Spire, I instantly fell in love with it and spent hundreds of hours playing this game. Then, after almost a whole decade of waiting, MegaCrit, the development team behind this game, released Slay the Spire 2 to a booming success that I did not expect at all. So, for the next however many minutes, I want to walk you through the history behind Slay the Spire and how the sequel manages to improve upon an already fantastic and historical game. Before we truly go into this rabbit hole, I want to ask a simple question. What is a roguelike deck builder? The basic idea is that you defeat enemies in order to get better cards to improve upon your deck. Each run has a lot of random elements, such as enemies, map layout, and random passive benefits, hence the roguelike. The longer your run goes, the harder the enemies become, and the higher the risk of losing your run and going all the way back to the start. According to Gallup 2018, the first roguelike deck builder that appeared with innovative and intriguing mechanics was Peter Whalen's Dream Quest, released in May 2014. The game had very basic graphics, just simple art with little to no animations, but still had the core elements of deck building, with a wide variety of enemies and a randomly generated map. Then, 3 years later, MegaCrit developed Slay the Spire, which, according to Purdy 2024, is arguably the start of modern roguelike deck builders. Slay the Spire still has the basic gameplay loop, but it now streamlines and modernizes the process even further. Instead of slowly uncovering the hidden map, your run is now confined into a single route with multiple branching nodes consisting of enemies, unknown events, places you can heal, and, at the end, a boss. You can still play multiple cards per turn, but the enemy now has two new differences. One, they can only act one time per turn, and two, their intent, what they intend to do in that turn, is shown to the player, which is a unique experience because it allows the player to strategize around and react according to their current situation. Even if you can't get the cards that you want, the game still has ways for you to influence luck in a way. Shops can remove cards you don't want so you can draw your better cards more often. Relics, those passive benefits that you can find, suddenly can turn your run into a completely new direction, etc. Overall, the first game is what I like to call easy to learn, hard to master. You can approach the game and still play it successfully even if you know nothing, but once you actually learn the intricacy behind the simple mechanics you can see, it's like learning a new game altogether. It's very fun. On March 5th, 2026, MegaCrit released the sequel called Slay the Spire 2 in early access. Now, what does early access mean exactly? In short, the game is not 100% finished. The developers want to release the game earlier than intended to not only have the players play the game early, but also receive feedback through player data and playtesting in order to tweak any overtuned or undertuned mechanics the game might have. For example, Slay the Spire 2 has had 3 major balance patches received over the last 3 weeks, with multiple changes to cards, enemies, and bosses. But at the end of the day, is Slay the Spire 2 any different? Yes and no. The first obvious thing to connect both games is that Slay the Spire 2 has 3 characters returning from the first game: the Ironclad, the Silent, and the Defect, all with familiar playstyles, but with some extra new cards and mechanics added in to make them feel newer and more refreshing than the first game. To take an example, in the first game, Silent has a card called Reflex, which is an unplayable card that only activates its effect if this card is discarded, making the card pretty useless if you don't have a way to discard this card. So, in the sequel, Reflex not only has an energy cost, which it didn't have before, making it possible to be played, but it, and many other of Silent's cards, now has the new keyword called Sly, which makes any Sly card be played for free if you discard it, which adds a whole new dimension to Silent's gameplay. On the flip side, there are also 2 completely new characters that got added, the Regent and the Necrobinder, which totals up to 5 playable characters, already more than the first game, which only had 4. The Necrobinder's main mechanic is her summon Osti, which redirects all damage taken to Osti instead of the Necrobinder. She also has ways to generate soul cards for a consistent draw, as well as her unique debuff called Doom, which instead of dealing damage every turn, like Poison, another similar debuff, it instead does nothing and kills the enemy at the end of their turn if they have as much Doom as HP. As a result, the Necrobinder really prefers sitting around for multiple turns during combat, stacking as much health on Osti to prevent taking too much damage, deal back a lot of damage with her starting card Unleash, and apply as much Doom and other debuffs to maximize debilitating the enemy. Moving on to the Regent, he has a unique resource called Stars, and some of his cards have huge numbers, like 30 damage or 17 block, which is counteracted by the fact that these cards have both an energy cost and a star cost, making it another resource to be micromanaged by the player. He also has his very own special attack called Sovereign Blade, which stays in your hand and gets stronger over time the more Forge cards you play. Some might say, well, how do you even block on Regen if most of its cards are so powerful? And to that, the Regen's best block plan is to kill the enemy before it kills you, with strong attacks, generating a lot of stars, and destroying anything that gets in your way. By this point, I would assume that you, the viewer, might have a looming question that needs to be answered. Is Slay the Spire 2 worth playing? I would definitely say that the game is worth picking up if you want to be a part of the game's life cycle as it continues to be developed and played over time. Another big reason is that the game launched with online multiplayer with up to 4 players, so if that interests you, then the game is absolutely worth buying, of course. But at the moment, the game is very fun, and learning a new game from scratch, just like everyone else, is a feeling I only get to experience once in a game like this. Odds are, if you like playing the original game, you will definitely enjoy the sequel. So, end of this entire journey, I want to ask you, the viewer, will you play Slay the Spire 2?